I'm Claire Dewar, and I consider that I do it from stem to stern because I love block walking, I raise money, I write checks, I help my county party, I even help national candidates, and I'm retired, but I really am not retired because this is a full-time job.
Yeah, you don't sound retired to me.
2024 was horrible, but 2025, I believe we know more, and I believe we are going to be better prepared, and I believe that Texas is the most entrepreneurial opportunity. It's high risk, high reward.
It's Thursday, February 6, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. It's kind of one of those hard to know where to start sort of mornings, but you know that we will. The top story today in Texas is news that's pretty thoroughly unsurprising, actually, as the Texas Senate has blazed a trail for Governor Abbott's billionaire bought and paid for private school voucher scam to head for the Texas House. Jaden Edison at the Texas Tribune says SB 2 prioritizes what its authors call low-income households, but the math they use here might puzzle you. Any four-person household earning less than roughly $156,000 a year is considered low income here. Texas budget experts say our public schools, which receive money based on attendance, are likely in the short term to experience a decrease in funding due to students leaving the public education system to participate in the voucher program, and that by 2030, just 5 years from now, the costs of that program could soar to more than $4.5 billion every year. Our current budget surplus may no longer be around in 2030, and public schools will be an even more tempting target for Republican fleecing at that time. It's predicted that half of Texas's roughly 350,000 students currently enrolled in private schools will apply for participation during the first year. Just those families will immediately overwhelm the program's enrollment capacity. Families already invested in private school will definitely come after their taxpayer-funded rebates. Dallas Senator Royce West yesterday during the proceedings at the Senate noted the throwback here to similar proposals from the 1950s, which were spurred by white families desperate to keep their kids from having to attend school alongside black and brown kids. Other Senate Democrats once again cited the privilege private schools themselves enjoy in being able to reject any kid they so choose, and that rural Texans, the majority of them, of course, Republicans and conservatives, really end up screwed here because many of their hometowns have no private school options at all. On to the House, where Republicans are confident that this time they can get their private school voucher scam over the finish line into Governor Abbott's desk. Anti-Trump protests across the country in all 50 states, including Texas yesterday, organized by the 50-51 movement, drew hundreds of demonstrators to the Texas state capitol in Austin yesterday, who then marched down South Congress Avenue. Jamal Kennedy at CBS Austin says Texas House Democratic Caucus Chair Gene Wu was there. He weighed in on Trump's immigration policy, just one of the many grievances the new administration has racked up in just its opening month. Wu says, quote, "We've screamed and advocates have screamed that immigrants built this country and this country would start to choke if you got rid of the immigrants, whether they're here legally or illegally. If you're concerned that getting rid of immigrants in this country is going to shut the economy down, you better say something," unquote. By the way, here's a good moment to mention that the ACLU of Texas is set to hold a series of online trainings, some of which are about engaging in public protest and how to do it right, i.e. with effect and within the law. Info sessions on interacting with law enforcement and immigration officials start today and run through early March. Those offered in both English and Spanish. And next Tuesday, the 11th, you might think about joining the Know Your Rights webinar on protesting in Texas. See the link in the show notes to join. Great resources all. Speaking of immigration, one that's really stuck out for me this morning, the story coming out of little old Alice, Texas. Small town just west of Corpus Christi. Uriel J. Garcia at the Texas Tribune says Alice ISD Superintendent Anicia Trevino sent a letter home to her students' families yesterday reading, quote, "We want to bring to your attention an important matter regarding student travel for extracurricular activities, including sports, band, and other co-curricular events. We have received information that U.S. Border Patrol agents may be boarding school buses at highway checkpoints in and out of the valley to question students about their citizenship status," unquote, adding that if a student does not have identification or other documents on them that can prove they're in the country legally, quote, "they may be removed from the bus, detained, and possibly deported," unquote. adding further that any student who lies about their immigration status runs the risk of disqualification for future citizenship. We have arrived, friends, at what qualifies as a bona fide terror campaign. Just picture it. Young kids on their way to a track meet or a band performance, confronted in their school bus by a burly armed trooper on the side of a remote Texas highway, no parent to protect them, much less a lawyer, with arrest and deportation a very real threat. We have arrived at a moment of abject horror. Our state is terrorizing defenseless children on our highways. It's going to take some doing to stand up to all of this. If Senator John Cornyn's Facebook post yesterday is any indication, Cornyn posted pictures of protesters outside his state offices in downtown Austin and, complete with tags, wrote, quote, "Sorry to miss these folks from Indivisible Guide and Move On, protesting my state offices over my support of President Donald J. Trump's nominees and all the good work Elon Musk is doing with Doge. I hate to break it to them, but we are just getting started. These people are really going to lose it when we extend the Trump tax cuts. Thanks for stopping by," unquote. This post shows that our senior senator, who typically tries to come off as responsible and reasonable and somewhat moderate, is completely bought into the Trump cult and harbors nothing but disdain for a full half of his constituents here in Texas. But we already knew that. Let's vote his ass out in 2026. One Texan hard at work in D.C. in the fight against Trump is Congressman Al Green of Houston. Richard Luscombe at The Guardian says Rep. Green has announced he's bringing articles of impeachment against Donald Trump for his proposal to take over Gaza. In Green's words, a dastardly deed that amounts to ethnic cleansing. Luscombe sees this as an aggressive move as one part of congressional Democrats finally stepping up their resistance to the Trump administration, and it's a barrage of chaotic, power-grabbing new policies that many have begun rightly viewing as a coup happening before our very eyes. Considering the numbers in both chambers of the legislative branch, Green's impeachment push is unlikely to come to real fruition, but the party appears to be waking up. Be sure your representatives in Congress know that you're alarmed and you expect them to take action. Sticking with the U.S. House here, we mentioned yesterday North DFW newbie Congressman Brandon Gill's call for Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar to be deported. Quick follow-up from Faith Bugenhagen at the Houston Chronicle as Rep. Omar channels our opinions of those comments from Congressman Gill, saying, quote, "How stupid you have to be a member of Congress and think that your colleague can be deported. What a dumbass. I'm not a Nepo baby. I had to crawl my way into Congress, and I think these idiots who buy their seats have no idea what a privilege it is to be a member of Congress and what it takes," unquote, and amen. February is Black History Month, and Progress Texas Advocacy Associate Tatum Owens has put together a terrific essay on this year's celebration, taking place amidst so much opposition and turmoil, including an extensive list of Black History Month events taking place across the state. Progress Texas Institute Board Chair Louis Bedford says, quote, "Celebrating Black History Month cannot just be a time to reflect on where we have been, but must be where we recommit ourselves to where we need to go. If we are to achieve a truly just and equitable society, we must reject the illusion of trickle-down diversity and demand systemic transformation. Representation matters, but it is only the beginning of the fight, not the end. And if we are unable to commit to dismantling these barriers that persist, the dream of equity and equality will remain just that, a dream," unquote, and correct. Link in the show notes for an important read on Black History Month and that listing of events across Texas. Our funding at Progress Texas is rarely sufficient for us to plan much more than a quarter or two ahead, but the conservative disinformation machine we oppose has no such obstacle. They're funded by oil billionaires and tech billionaires and religious right-wing activist groups. Our regular everyday listeners form a key component of our funding here at Progress Texas. If that's you, we could use your support as a monthly contributor. No amount is too small. Go to progresstexas.org/donate. Thanks so much to Norma Jane Lastraco, Maria Jimenez, and Kristen Hartwell, all three of whom are on the team. We appreciate y'all very much. For our Austin listeners in particular, but really for all of you, the Amplify Austin Day season is officially underway as this year's early giving period has begun. Look up Progress Texas at amplifyatx.org or see the direct link we'll put in the show notes this morning. The official I Live Here, I Give Here Amplify Austin Day is coming up in early March. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Thursday, February 6, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.